Welcome to the DRGN SLYR Podcast by East Idaho Credit Union. My name is Steven. With me always is Bailey. And today's guest, China Hansen from the Little Mama Shirt Shop. China, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So let's start off with, tell us about Little Mama Shirt Shop, first of all.
Okay.
And then we're going to go backwards in time and talk about how you got to where you're at now.
Okay. Little Mama Shirt Shop, we just celebrated our 6th birthday, business birthday.
Did you have a party?
We did have a party.
What did you
had
do?
a very legit party. One of our team members is an amazing cake decorator.
Oh.
She made a cake shaped like a t-shirt. And we do Olympics. We do LMSS Olympics every year.
Oh,
So,
very nice.
yeah.
Very nice. Love it.
Yeah, do a lot of fun games. We sell graphic tees and screen printed embroidered apparel to moms, kids, dads. We're transitioning to be more of a family brand, but we started out to be shirts only for mamas. But we stand by our motto that we believe in the magical moments of everyday motherhood. So
Love it.
everything's
nice.
kind of based around that. We print and embroider everything in-house, and we ship thousands of orders every month to moms all across the world.
Wow. That's crazy. And located here in Idaho Falls?
Yep, we're here in Idaho Falls. We're currently over off of Yellowstone Highway, and we're building a new warehouse just across the street from where we're at right now. So we've ran out of space again.
Yeah. Well, that's a great problem to have.
Yes.
So
Yes, it
is your business entirely direct to consumer through your website, or do you do other things too?
Yes. So social media plays a big part for us in driving traffic to our website, but we have our own website built by me, not a web designer at all, but fan of the Google search bar.
Sure.
So, I built our website, and we just drive traffic there through social media, and we have an ad agency that drives some traffic for us too.
Very nice. Okay. So let's go back in time just a little bit here.
Okay.
Because you're a very successful venture now, but 6 years ago, tell us what triggered you to say, I'm going to start this online shirt shop for mamas.
Okay. I definitely feel like it was inspired. I had a graphic design business for a few years, and then we were in the middle of a big move from Utah to Idaho, and we were literally packing up boxes. We had just had our second little boy, and I told my husband, I think I'm going to start a shirt business. And he just looked at me.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, he just looked at me, and he just let out this big sigh. I'm kind of always on the go. I have a hard time taking a rest, and he's like, do you think we could just get moved first? I was like, okay, we can do that. So we moved to a rental home in Rexburg, and I just couldn't get the idea off of my mind. I knew it needed to be called Little Mama Shirt Shop. I already had a logo for it, and it was all about just raising boys, because I have all boys. Now I have 4 boys, but at the time I only had 2. And so our very first design was raising boys, loving life. And I told my husband, we started with $400. I scraped and saved $400 to start the business from my graphic design business. And I just told him, I woke up in the middle of the night one night, and I said, I just have to see if all we do is make the $400 back, then I just have to see. I have to see if this will work out or not. So I got up in the middle of the night, ordered $400 worth of inventory, built an Etsy shop, and we launched on a Facebook Live that had probably about 3 people in attendance, my grandma and my aunt and my mom.
Yep.
And so we actually ended up selling out that night of our very small inventory when we just started. I mean, selling out, we had 30 shirts.
I was about to say, how many shirts?
Yeah, we had probably
$400
30 or 40.
Yeah.
So yeah, we sold out that night, and then I was like, okay, I guess people kind of like this, so we'll go ahead and do a restock. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing. So
400 more in.
Yeah.
Right?
So we just ended up we moved our boys into 1 bedroom, and then we filled up our rental home guest bedroom with shirts. And we just kept restocking, and they just kept selling. And so we kind of went from there, and then we moved to our home in Idaho Falls, and our business was in a 10 by 10 bedroom there. And the sales were still coming in on Etsy. We hadn't built a website yet. And it was just all me at the time. My husband worked at the site, and so he was really busy with his full-time job. So it was just a nap time hustle for a long time.
Yeah.
And then we moved our business to the basement and hired an employee. So we had some employees like working in our home while I'm upstairs. Like,
that ever freak you out?
I mean, no, because we had really good, like, we didn't hire anyone that we were worried about.
Okay,
you know?
okay, yeah.
But it was a little awkward when they come into work and I'm just like in my pajamas doing a puzzle, you know, and I'm like, oh, yeah, the orders are ready for you down there. So we kind of started to outgrow our basement. Like, we had one big bedroom down there, and then I remember it started to filter over into our guest bedroom in the basement. And I remember standing in the door, just looking into that guest bedroom, really wanting to preserve that for life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm like, I don't want this business to take over our whole life. So I was just like leaning in the doorway one day, and I just like had the strongest impression that was just like, let it grow. Like, I was keeping the lid on it by trying to keep it contained in a 10 by 10 room, you know?
Was that to music in your head?
It was
by
just
chance?
a very distinct one-liner that really changed the trajectory of things for me. So we let it grow. We let it take over our guest bedroom once again. And so our whole entire basement was just an operation. And then I was on the phone with a business coach one day, and she was like, you need a warehouse. What are you doing? And I was like, I'm so scared of that, you know, and felt like a big commitment because we'd have this extra rent payment. And I'm like, I was in denial, I think, for a long time about what it had grown to. You know, this is still just like my nap time thing. Like, this isn't anything big. And then it took her telling me like, yeah, it is. And I told her our numbers and how many sales we were getting and stuff. And she's like, you need to get the warehouse. Yeah. So we got our first warehouse. We outgrew that during COVID.
How big was that first warehouse?
It was, oh gosh, it was like 2,000 square feet. So it felt huge.
Yeah, it felt huge.
It felt huge. I was like, we will never outgrow this. We moved to our second warehouse, and then we visited our first warehouse, and I'm like, that thing looks like a broom closet now. So tiny.
How many employees did you have at that first warehouse?
We had probably like 10 or so. Yeah. And then during COVID, it was an interesting dynamic, like, for everyone. But we still kept working, and we were careful, you know, we worked in staggered shifts and with masks and everything. But at that point, we started to recruit like our neighbors and our family members, and we're like, can you read? Can you walk? You have a job here. You have a brain in your head. You have a job here. So that was when our sales really blew up. And for a long time, I used to say, even if this business grew big enough, Tyler would never want to quit his job. He never would want to do shirts. Like, that's so girly, you know, but he actually has a master's degree in business. And so we started to talk about that, like, play with that idea. And we had a lot of like, well, if we get this much in our savings and we get this paid off, then like we'll have this conversation again. And we kept putting a pin in it. And then that day would come and we would kick the can down the road again. And then finally it just got to the point where I was like, we're literally like paying more in taxes than you're making at the INL. And so let's just go ahead and call it. So we were really thoughtful and prayerful about it. And we were like, okay, we'll give it 1 year. We'll see how, you know, if we still like each other after a year of working together, if we can make it work financially. And so he sent an email to his boss. And the funny thing is, when he quit his job, we expected just excitement and party and fear and all the things. And he just closed his laptop and it was just like peace. It just felt like peace. And so that was 2.5 years ago. Wow. And so now he's helped me a lot too. He does all the HR and the payroll and the admin. And then I do the boring stuff, the face of the business, the marketing, the stuff that I like. Yeah. And he likes that part. So
you need those people, right?
It took us about a year to learn how to work together. Like, what's your role? What's my role?
Do you have any rules, like, you know, after 5 o'clock, we don't talk about the business
we do.
anymore?
When we get in our bed at like 9 or something, we're like, no more. Like, we're going to watch a show. We're just going to be married now. And so, yeah, we try not to talk business late at night or like on Sundays. Even last night, he started bringing up stuff about business. And I'm like, no, let's talk about this tomorrow. So, yeah, we do that. And we always just say that we're married first and we're parents second and we're business partners third. Because we know that the first two things are the most important. And then the third is like, it's a nice bonus. But if we're not careful about it, it can take over. You know, we go on a date night and we're talking HR and stuff. And so we have to be careful with it. But we like it. We really like it. And it gives us a lot more time with our boys. We get to trade off parenting and work and stuff.
Yeah.
So
You mentioned something else that I thought was really interesting too, where, you know, your husband, he does a lot of the administrative back end work and you concentrate on the marketing, the designing, all that sort of stuff. I think there's a really valuable lesson there in finding the right kinds of people that follow the types of roles that you need in the business. You can't have 10 creative geniuses all in the same place trying to all do the same thing. You need at least some of those people to do some other things, right?
absolutely. Yes.
What kind of advice would you give to a business as they're starting to expand and finding the right kinds of people that have a complementary skill set to yours?
Yes. I could go on and on about this.
Please do.
Hiring was a really intimidating part for me because I just wanted to run a business. I didn't really want to be a boss. And I know people say, well, there's like born leaders and not born leaders and all of that. But I really had to learn how to manage people. And it was something I hadn't anticipated as far as being a business owner. I was like, oh, you're not just going to like show up and like do the job I told you. We're going to have some bumps along the way. So number one is from the book Good to Great, something that Tyler and I really abide by. And that is getting, he talks about the concept of like a bus, and he's like, you need to get the right people on the bus. And then if you need to move their seats around, you do that before you kick them off the bus. So we've been really, really fortunate with our employees. We've had very few that haven't worked out. But that has been something that's really guided us as far as getting people into their correct roles. We've had people come on and we put them on wholesale and they weren't happy with wholesale, or they would, you know, we could just sense that they weren't, and then we like pull them off and put them on customer service, and they thrived on that. So we are all about getting the right people on the bus and then moving their seats before we kick them off the bus. It takes a while to get kicked off of the Little Mama Shirt Shop bus. We do that so very rarely. So that, and then also just hiring for attitude and not for talent and skill.
So tell me about that, because that's really interesting. So what kind of attitude do you look for? And then you look at skill and ability secondarily. So what's the attitude that you're after?
Well, we definitely, I mean, we have 26 employees now. And so it's teamwork. Like it's all about teamwork. And so we have our core values and we have them hanging on the wall. And one of them is just teamwork, and it's owning our mistakes and working together. And every order that leaves our warehouse has been touched by at least 6 people. And if there comes back a mistake on an order, you know, we don't really like pin it on anybody, but we're just like, dang, this is a group effort. Like we all saw that. How did that happen? You know? So team player is just huge for us. No one really works by themselves. They all work as a team.
I remember when I was young, I grew up playing football, and we're just in a practice or whatever, and handed the ball off to the running back, and he got tackled and fumbled the ball. And so we all had to run.
That's kind of how we approach it.
And so a lot of what we learned then was you got to show up for each other. Right? Like you got to be there for each other and have each other's back. Because the whole thing is how it works, not just the one person carrying the ball.
So we're very selective about who we hire. We have a great team that we just try to kind of hire them as like, we like your personality. You seem intelligent. So we feel like you can do almost anything within our company. We're starting to get where we're hiring a little bit more like specialty. And we just hired a marketing director and some things like that. But as far as our warehouse crew, we're like, you're great. We think that you can get along with people, and we have like a 0 tolerance policy for drama. And I hate that like groups of women get that the reputation of like you guys must have so much drama. Like we really don't. We just like each other, and we're careful about who we hire. So
what do you do when you're interviewing somebody to evaluate, I think they're going to be a good team player?
Well, sometimes I'm wrong, but
we're all wrong sometimes. It's okay.
So Tyler and I both sit on the interviews, and we just have a lot of questions. It's just a gut feeling. I kind of almost feel like when they walk through the door, I know if it's a yes or a no. So yeah, we another thing that we kind of abide by is that company culture comes from the top. And so if we want this to be a fun, drama-free, hardworking environment, then we have to also be the model of that. And we really have worked hard to get everyone on board with our vision for the brand. And that's just advocating for motherhood and celebrating little moments in motherhood.
Yeah.
Like we try to have a lot of milestone teas and things like that, opportunities to match and just encourage people to just like see those little magical moments in their lives. And we think that our teas just add a little layer of magic to that. And we've been so fortunate that our employees just really get on board with that vision. They love it. And sometimes some of our best customers make the best employees.
Sure. Yeah.
So we actually had one girl.
You're passionate about what you do anyway.
Yeah. Sometimes at lunch is a big deal. Little Mama Share Shop. We love to sit down and eat together. And
so tell me about that. Why is lunch a big deal?
We're all kind of foodies. We call it lunch bunch, and we order lunch every single day. It's the worst habit, but it's just a big deal. Like we just care about what we eat, and so we have really good lunch. We always eat together. I always tell our new hires, like, you can go for lunch. Don't let them peer pressure you. You can go home for lunch, but no one ever does. Yeah. We always just sit and eat together, and just a time to kind of be off the clock and talk about our lives and stuff. So sometimes we call it lunch bunch. We sit down and call some of our customers, like FaceTime our customers at lunch. And we let them pick out something from the shop, and we just visit with them for a minute.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
It's like sometimes they burst into tears. And we're like, oh my gosh. And one girl that we hired, we called her on her birthday. She was one of our customers, and we're like, yeah, pick whatever you want. Like, it's your birthday, she was local. And then the next day she messaged me. She's like, are you guys hiring? And so we hired her, and she's been the best. And awesome. So we do better when we hire through people who already know about us or have purchased from us before, because they already care about our brand.
Yeah.
So
that's really interesting, actually. Would you have the lunch bunch? I have a couple of questions about this, actually. When you say good food, what do you mean? Like, we're eating healthy?
No, I wish. I mean, we all have our moments where we're like, oh, I brought a lunch from home today. And everyone's like, what? Why did you do that?
Lame.
But we have like local restaurants that we circle through.
What's on your hit list?
We do like Firehouse Subs, Meters, Costa Vida, Cafe Rio, Freddy's, Five Guys, Mod Pizza. We're on a big Mod Pizza kick right now. Yeah, so we just circle through.
Yeah. What do you feel like when you all sit down and you eat these meals together, and you probably talk about business some and talk about life some and some other things? What do you feel like is the net effect on your company by having those moments?
I think just like it just brings us together. Something that we touch on in our team meetings and stuff is just like it's really easy to get frustrated with the person next to you who's not working as fast as you or as efficiently as you or whatever. But we try to really ingrain in the principle that everybody's doing the best they can. And if you believe that about your coworkers, you almost can't not love them, because you're like, her speed might be different than mine, or her best looks different than mine, or maybe today her best is different because she's struggling with things at home, things like that. So when we all sit down and eat together, that's when it comes out like, well, I'm really having a hard time with this, or my kid is this, and so that's when we're having the real life conversations that paint the whole picture of, this isn't just my coworker, but she's my friend, and it feels like we're family. Like I love my employees so much, and it's really important for Tyler and I to both. I mean, he's the only guy sitting there. And so he just gets teased endlessly, but I think he likes it, and everyone likes having him there too. But I think just having the conversations together, and Tyler and I make it a point to, we're never like above it, because we own the business. Like we try to get in there and do orders with them. We eat with them and stuff, because they really are some of the most important people in our lives. We can do what we're doing without them.
Yeah. So. I want to go back to something that you said a few minutes ago. When you were getting ready to move into an actual warehouse space out of the basement, you said that you had talked to a coach or a mentor. Yeah. Who's that person, and what was that relationship?
Yeah, so her name is Michelle Gifford. You can find her on Instagram, and she has a great tips for small business owners. She's under I Am Michelle Gifford. And at the time, she was just a friend. And actually what's funny is I just met her in real life last week for the first time. And we met, and I was like, we've met before. And she's like, no, we haven't. but we have just talked online consistently for like 4 years now.
Interesting.
So she is a business coach and she does a lot of marketing for small businesses. But at the time, I just consider her a really good friend. And I really always think in like metaphors, but I feel like I was standing on the end of a diving board and she came behind me and pushed me in to the deep end. And I needed her too. And there's been other times where I think as business owners, we get really nervous about big decisions. So we just are like, we just sit on the end of the diving board forever. Yeah. And sometimes we just need someone to push us. Yeah. And she did that for me. And so, yeah, I tell her all the time. And now we're building a warehouse, like, and it's 12,000 square feet. Oh my goodness. Huge. Yeah. And I'm like, this is because of you, Michelle. I'd still be in my basement had you not pushed me off the deep end.
I've said this before on this podcast, but I think every entrepreneur, every business leader needs somebody around them that gives them permission to take chances.
Yes.
You need somebody to say, yeah, go for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love the tip too of never take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from. Because there's a lot of people who are quick to criticize or say, are you sure that's going to work out? And I'm like, well, I actually wouldn't take advice from you. So I'm just going to let that go, you know. Sure. But with my business mentors, I'm like, I will take anything that you will tell me.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute, because that's interesting. So as you've built this really successful business, who along the way said you can't do that, you shouldn't do that? You don't have to name names, but what was that experience? What kind of comments did you get?
I think like rightfully so. I think with some of our family, it was like, he's gonna what? He's gonna quit his job. He does have 3 kids, and so some family members or friends have just. I mean, we haven't had a lot, but just a few little comments of like, oh, is that really a good idea? Are you sure about that? And sometimes I've felt, and this could be in my own head, of just feeling like we're just playing t-shirts, or that some people think that. And I'm like, it's okay to let people be wrong about you. Like, we don't have anything to prove. But sometimes it hurts your feelings a little bit. Yeah. But I also try to just take that as like, you're going to doubt what we can do. And rather than like internalize that and doubt myself, it's more like, watch me. I'm going to do it far better than you even think I could. So kind of use it for motivation instead.
What kind of advice would you give to somebody who is experiencing that? The hardest one is when it's from family. Yeah. Like that's the hard, because you're like, you're supposed to be on my team, right? You have that kind of feeling. What kind of advice would you give to somebody that's experiencing some maybe some doubt and some negativity from an external source? Yeah. How do you get through it?
At East Idaho Credit Union, the success of your business matters to us. Michael from Adrenaline Outdoors received one-on-one mentoring with one of our industry experts. With that advice, Michael has been able to grow his business and serve his customers more effectively than ever before. You don't get that kind of care from anyone else, only at East Idaho Credit Union. Visit us at eastidahocu.org, federally insured by the NCUA.
What kind of advice would you give to somebody that's experiencing some maybe some doubt and some negativity from an external source? Yeah. How do you get through it?
I think I've really had to compartmentalize relationships in a way, which sounds not that healthy, but to me it has been. I think just realizing that in the kindest way, if your family members are not in small business, then they simply don't have a leg to stand on to offer you advice in small business. And I don't need my family members to understand or champion what I'm doing. When I removed the expectation of them doing that and just went back to like, I'm just your daughter, your sister, your friend, or your family member. And I can talk business with my mentors and people who get it. And so not trying to prove yourself to your family. You're already proven. You're part of their family. You're worthy. They love you, and they love you for who you actually are deep down aside from your business. And they loved you before your business. And so just let them continue to love you and not feel like you have to like prove to them how successful you are. So with our family, I have some family members who are small business owners and we talk business all the time. Yeah. And with those who are not, we're just like, yeah, business is good. We're just, whatever. How's your job going? And it's like just not keeping a lid on it, but it's just like, this is it. necessarily like the place I come to be inspired about business. You guys inspire me about so many other things, and I love you so much, but here's where I go to be inspired and uplifted about my business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I want to go back in time just a little bit. You were doing some graphic design before you started this business. What were the things that you did that prepared you to start Little Mama Shirt Shop? Like, who is China really, right? Like, what is behind all of this?
That's the question. Yeah, it's funny. Last night, Tyler and I have done a lot of reflecting lately. Obviously, this warehouse build and just some moves we're trying to make right now are really big and scary, and so we've gone back to like pivotal conversations that we've had along the way, and I actually went to college and received my degree in English education. So I taught high school, but I think like I can pinpoint it on a conversation that Tyler and I had 10 years ago when I was pregnant with my first son. We went for a walk, and always tears, in pivotal conversations. And I was like, we were living in Salt Lake in a teeny tiny apartment that we hated. We both hated our jobs. I hated being pregnant. It was just a rough year for us. And I was given the opportunity in my job in Salt Lake to do a little bit of design, just play with it a little bit. And it was cool because I had a lot of just hours to work on Adobe Illustrator. And even though I didn't love the job, it was just really a cool opportunity to just like put in the time of learning about design. And then I had a few people ask me to design like their graduation announcements. And I think I charged like $15, and it took me probably about 3 hours to design it, maybe longer. We went for a walk around the block one time, and I was like, if all I could do is make enough money for me to not have to work and stay home with our little boy, that would be super cool. Then I wouldn't have to teach and be away from him, and we wouldn't have to get childcare and all these things. And I just remember feeling like so strongly like we could do that. Like if I design 100 graduation announcements,
at $15 a piece. Yeah.
And so that was a really pivotal conversation for us, and we talk about that all the time. What those two little baby soon to be parents didn't know, But I think a lot of it was motivated by just wanting to be home. And also, as I was doing my graphic design business, we had then moved to Price, Utah. We had moved around a little bit. I was 8 hours away from my entire family and all of my friends. And when I had my first son, I was very lonely. And I think that's something they don't tell you in motherhood, is that you're never alone, but you can feel really lonely. Like you always have this little baby crying at you, but you're like, where are my people? I really feel like Little Mama Shirt Shop was just born out of a desire to connect with other moms. And so it felt like a natural progression of the graphic design turning into t-shirts. And I also had this like postpartum body that nothing fits and everything's like weird. What am I supposed to do with this? And so it just kind of sparked my interest. And the funny thing is I know there are a million trillion graphic tee shops now, but at the time, 6 years ago when I started, I felt too late. And that was a thought that held me up for a long time. Like, I'm too late for this. Like,
there's too many other competitors.
It's too saturated. Yeah. And so I don't know. I just went it all in. And
so that's really interesting. So 6 years ago, you felt like it's too saturated.
Yeah.
There's too many other players in this market. But I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it anyway. So let's pretend that's true, that it's too saturated, right? What was the magic that made Little Mama Shirt Shop work in a saturated, competitive market?
Yeah, I think community all the way. We've just built this huge online mom community that I feel like that's actually what I was looking for. And
just happen to
the
do
shirts
it
are
through
like
shirts.
nice bonus, but we've built a huge community of moms all across the world, which it's funny that we're having this conversation today because I was just actually talking to one of my friends in the UK about their changes recently, and one of my friends in Florida that just lost her home this last week. And I'm like, I can say that I have friends all over the world, and I wouldn't be able to say that if I didn't have this business.
Yeah.
So when I opened the business, I mean, on Instagram, I just kind of started pouring my heart out about motherhood, like the challenges. And at the time, like nobody was really talking about it. Instagram was just a really perfect place where you had to have your all white kitchens and your kids perfectly dressed and, you know, your recipes. And I'm like, actually, this is really freaking hard. Is anyone else feeling like that? Yeah. And I just got such a good response from mothers. And then just using my son and the response I was getting from the moms as inspiration for new designs and sayings and really listening to their feedback. And we talk about this all the time with our team, that we're just a really customer centric business. Like our customers drive everything. They want hoodies. We'll find you hoodies. You know, you want, we didn't start with children's clothing. And I had so many people asking me like, okay, I don't really want to do kids clothes, but you guys really want that. So we'll do it. And we did it. And so I think our customers really appreciate that. And I make it a point to, I answer, it's always me in the Instagram DMs. It's never like, no, I don't hire that out. I make a point to get on our Facebook VIP group and try to respond to everyone. And I'm not perfect at it, but I think like people think, oh, you're a big business. I'm no longer talking to you, the owner. And I'm like, no, really you are. Like I'm in my sweatpants right now, like trying to feed my baby, but it's me.
So I want to ask you about the design elements. Do you still do all the design yourself?
I do.
That's crazy to me.
Yep.
Yeah. What are your favorite designs that you've done?
Oh gosh.
And what has been like your most popular design?
I mean, anything that says mama is popular. Oddly enough, we just had our team Olympics and it comes with some trivia and we have the girls, you know, fill out a questionnaire and like our best selling item this year, oddly enough, is our dad, just like dad set.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, what in the world? We're Little Mama Shirt Shop. But I think like the dad market isn't as tapped into. Yeah. And so there's just some like analytical things behind that. But definitely like our mama's signature tie-dye sweatshirt is a huge seller. I feel like my favorite, people ask me that all the time and I'm like, just changes with the seasons. Sure, like right now I'm loving all the Halloween designs and things like that. So
what was the first design that really hit, that really took off, that people just couldn't get enough of?
Let's see. Oh gosh. We did Mama Knows Best a few years ago in kind of like a retro font, and we sold like thousands of those. Wow. And so it's funny, we call them our unicorn products because we'll get one every once in a while that really hits, and then you know it sells tons and tons for like a couple of years, and then it kind of fizzles out. Sure. I'm like, okay, well, everybody in our community has this one now, so we need to come up with a new one.
Are you ever surprised by what people love? You're just all like, I thought that was garbage.
Yes,
everybody loves
all
it.
The time. I like design one. I'm like, you know, that's like not quite up to par, but you know, we'll give it a shot. And then it sells like crazy, and then I'll do one that I think is so cute.
And nothing.
And it bombs. And I'm like, okay. And that's where I've really drawn on like my team getting their feedback, because they'll even surprise me sometimes. I'm like, you guys, this is ugly. And they're like, no, we love it. So a lot of feedback like that. But everyone has a different taste and style. And I guess too, going back to my favorites, my son is a really good artist. And he just turned 9. And he draws all the dinosaurs in our shop.
Oh, I love it.
Like cool. Hand draws them. And the shirt that you're wearing, Bailey, my dad drew that.
Is that right? Cool?
And so he drew that.
The bison shirt that she's wearing, yeah.
And those have sold really well. Yeah. And people really connect with I always like make a point to say we have a savings account set up for Paxton, and he gets all of the profits from you know his designs, and he's our little employee.
I love it.
So we try to keep it like family business like that. And every time I see someone in the buffalo shirt, I always take a picture and send it to my dad, and he's like, really, man, people are still wearing that. They love it.
Well, she showed up today wearing that, and I was like, I want one of those.
Yeah,
it's a cool shirt.
Cool.
Yeah,
love it.
He drew it on his phone, just like at a restaurant.
You're kidding me.
Yeah,
oh my goodness,
that's great.
That's crazy.
Love that story.
So your dad's a great artist too, then?
He is.
Yeah.
He's very creative, very talented artist, and he's a small business owner. So I was cutting his hair one day years ago. He's a single guy, and I was like trying to tell him that Tyler was going to quit his government job to make T-shirts. And I'm like, God, I don't really know how to do this, because he has like these high expectations of us, and does this feel like a step backward? And I'm cutting his hair, and I'm like, I think like Tyler's gonna quit. I think we're just gonna go all in, and I'm just like waiting for him to be like, what? He's like, I don't know why you didn't do that like a year ago. I've been wondering. I was like, okay, and so
yeah, that's great. Fun. Here's this buffalo. Yeah, exactly. I love it. So do you feel like you've figured out, maybe this is the wrong way to put this exactly, but it's the best I can come up with, like a formula for the design elements of what you do that you're like, I know this formula kind of works?
Let's see. I think to a degree, yes. Mm-hmm. Anything that says mama, they'll love it. Mm-hmm. But I think ways to incorporate into a whole family kind of thing, and that usually sells really well, because what's cuter than a little tiny newborn onesie that has the same design as the mom shirt?
Sure,
totally.
And so that works really well for us to really be like, how can we have a whole family approach to a holiday? And we get so many requests. Can't you do grandma and Nana and Grammy? And so we started to add that in, and that works really well. But yeah, just kind of taking the family plus holiday and just creating something around that. And people love it. And letting our customers like vote. Sometimes I'll throw up a design there and be like, which one's your favorite? And then they'll buy the one that they voted on. Mm-hmm. They feel committed to the process.
Of course. So do you design stuff that you're like, I want to wear this?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's how you start your designs?
Yeah, pretty much my entire closet is Little Mama Shirt Shop. I wear it mostly every day. People are like, are your kids just so well dressed? I'm like, honestly, no. My little ones wear it, and I put my baby in it all the time, but my 9-year-old's getting a little too cool for Little Mama Shirt Shop.
Well, yeah, I guess that happens, doesn't it?
But he does tell me when he comes home from school, he's like, I saw a kid in my dinosaur shirt today. And I'm like, bud, that is so cool.
That's
no
super
one else can say that
really
in your school.
neat.
And he's like, yeah, I guess. Like,
yeah.
So, and my husband wears them all the time too. He wears all the dad shirts.
Yeah, I saw one on your site actually earlier today. Or maybe it was on Instagram. I can't remember, but it was a regional manager.
Yeah.
And the kids one is assistant to the regional manager, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah, that one's fun.
Yeah, that's a great one. So what does the future look like? What is the next year, 3 years, 5 years? What are you planning on? What's up your sleeve here?
Well, obviously we're still going with the shirt thing, and I always tell people against all odds, but as much as sometimes I get a little imposter syndrome going on and go, what are we doing here? Are we still relevant? And it feels like a hot mess. Sometimes there's a lot of strategy behind it. So we are continuing to do that. We're investing in some new equipment. We have another embroidery machine arriving soon, which buying our first 6-head embroidery machine was just a really scary move for us. It was the most expensive thing we'd ever purchased.
Yeah.
We saved up, paid cash for it, waited for it to come from Japan, 2 months on a boat, and that was just like a little over a year ago. And now we're having our second one arrive next week. And we're just like, oh my gosh, we need like 5 more of these. So continuing to do that. And then, like business wise, aside from Little Mama Shirt Shop, we're just, my husband's wanting to get a little bit into some real estate investing. And we're talking about doing a little more custom things for local businesses, offering our services of embroidery and printing for them. And just trying to, our word this year was diversify.
Yeah.
And I'm like, funny that it's October and we're just now getting to that.
Hey, it's still in the year.
It's still in the year. We always have a business word every year, and it just naturally happens, which is super cool. Kind of manifest that. And so, yeah, we'll diversify a little bit, I think.
I like it. I think it's interesting that you have your own embroidery machines, your own. Is it screen printing or heat press?
Kind of.
Or I don't know how that stuff works, but so why did you make the decision? Because this is something a lot of small businesses have to figure out. How much do I outsource? What do I outsource? What do I bring in house? So you clearly made the decision pretty early on that we want to produce it here.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that decision versus outsourcing that function?
Yeah, so we always joke that we insist on doing things the hard way. Because most businesses, especially e-commerce, product-based businesses, they outsource their fulfillment to fulfillment centers. And there's tons of fulfillment centers that would have, that would print and ship our shirts for us. And we would just do the admin. But we just felt like we only did about 2 rounds of having a local guy print, and this was like way back in the rental house days, of print our shirts for us. And then it was just like we need to do this. Like I think we always say big business operation, small business heart. And so we feel like by keeping it in-house, we get to employ mothers, and there's just so much like of a community aspect, and also / control.
Sure. Yeah.
Getting to control it. And we felt like we want to make a business that is worth something, community and heart ways, and also like for our family, like create some generational wealth. And so we knew that so much of it is just like taking a risk and believing. And we've never received a single penny from anyone, and we've never incurred any business debt before.
Amazing.
And so we've just hustle, save up, and buy something that we know can in turn make us money. And we know that even if Little Mama Shirt Shop closed tomorrow, like that embroidery machine can still make us money.
Sure.
So we try to just be calculated about it like that.
Interesting. Bailey, I know I'm missing a bunch of questions.
Yeah. I've influencer marketing is such a big thing nowadays, and I've seen some really big influencers work with you guys. Can you talk about that experience a little bit?
Yeah. So influencer marketing, it's a beast. We always say like for every 20 packages we send, we expect about 1 response. So it falls flat a lot of the time, but the relationships that we have built with influencers have been really meaningful. And I think sometimes influencers get a bad rap because it's like, oh, they just get all this free stuff for them. It is work. It's a ton of work. They have to post about it. They have to take pictures of it. They have to tag the right things. They're getting completely bombarded. But that is something that has helped our business grow a lot. And we've had some really cool relationships with like Hey Maddie Nelson and Krista Horton and Ryan and Rose. Lindsay from Ryan and Rose has become a good friend. We text all the time about business, and they're running businesses too. And so it's just like a cool, my biggest tip, I guess, for influencer marketing is just making sure it's a win-win-win. So it's like,
explain that.
Like if someone asks me to collaborate, or if I ask someone to collaborate, my very first like round of screening is just, does it benefit me? Does it benefit you? And does it benefit both of our audiences? And if any of those is no, then it's not a good fit.
Yeah.
And so even sometimes people will send me stuff and I'm like, oh, so nice. But like, I just really,
this doesn't work for me.
This doesn't really like fit into what we're trying to talk about here. So that is my biggest tip when approaching influencer marketing. And so like someone like Maddie Nelson, for example, she's so kind to share about her things, that she's a family brand as well. And she has these cute little kids, and she's always posting about her kids. And I'm like, it works for you, for me, and for all of the people that follow both of us. So
I think it's a great acid test for that.
Yeah.
So do you just like when you're going out and you're like, okay, here are these 20 influencers that I think I want to work with.
Yeah.
That on paper looks like this makes sense. Do you just like send them a few shirts and say, and just like cross your fingers? Like, how does that work?
So, I mean, first you have to find their address.
Yeah.
And that requires some FBI stalking every once in a while. If you can get them to respond on email or Instagram, considering they are completely bombarded when they've got millions of followers, if you can get that first response, it's usually just like, I'd love to send you some items. No pressure to share, but if you want to, and they're like, yeah, great, here's my address. And sometimes I'm like, well, do you want to pick or do you want me to pick? And it's about 50-50.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go on and they send me a couple of screenshots of what they want. And then sometimes I'm just like, okay, what would Krista Horton choose? And so it goes kind of both on that. And then, like I said, we send in, we always include a handwritten note and why we admire them as like a family and being invested in them actually, and not just be like, how can you benefit me?
Right.
Like, can you get me a ton of sales? But it's like, no, like I know your kids' names. Like I follow you. I feel like kindred with you. And so that's a big part of it. I think they're not going to share about you if they're like, who are you? Like,
Right.
You don't even follow me,
Yeah.
you know? And
Totally.
so,
How do you approach one of these people? Like, do you
yeah.
like what's the subject line on the DM? What does it say?
You know,
I've been following you for
actually
years.
like, yeah, it's that.
It's creepy
yeah,
stuff like
it's
that.
creepy.
I like
It's
it.
totally
Yeah.
creepy. I respond to a lot of their stories. Like,
Oh, okay.
you know, just like, oh, I love that. Or I feel this way too.
Mhm.
Anytime you can have a Me Too moment with someone, a lot of it's just luck when they just see
Yeah.
you. But if you have a great product, it's just then getting it in front of their eyes. And that's, you know, that can be the real work. But once you do and they check out your website, they're like, oh, that's so cute. Yeah, I love that. And so it's not like we're trying to like give them like a crap product,
Right.
you know, like we stand behind our product. And so usually it's just like that. It's like, hey, I've followed you for a long time. I love like your family and I'd love to send you some things if you wouldn't mind. If you want to share, great. And if you don't, it's fine.
Yeah.
Just like you.
We like
So
you
here's some
anyway.
Stuff.
Yeah.
So we send it, and then we usually send like a discount code. So if they share on their stories, then we do benefit greatly from it, you know. So
I do have to say I'm a huge Krista Horton fan.
yes,
And when I've seen her share stuff with Little Mama Shirt Shop, I'm like, that is the coolest thing. I was like, that came from my
She's
backyard,
so
basically.
nice.
I'm like,
Yeah.
that is so cool.
she's been super nice to share our stuff. She's really good about sharing for holidays and stuff. It's fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned something I think is interesting. People feel strongly about their like home, their locale. We had a guest on a few weeks ago, and he was telling us, I don't sell into Idaho like at all, which was really kind of anomalous and strange. It wasn't really a common thing. So big presence in Idaho, more in other places. Do you even look at it that way, or do you look at it as a community?
I don't look at
thing?
it that way, but I know that I notice when we have sales from Idaho for sure. I think I gauge it a little differently in that we ship just thousands of orders, and I don't feel like Idaho's like more than
Anybody else,
any other state. But where I really feel and see our influence in the community, because you have no idea when you have like a decent amount of followers, you're like, I don't know, it's a little bit odd to be like, these people know me, but I don't know them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when we do our local warehouse sales, we have like 500 or more people show. The line goes all the way down the street, and I'm always blown away. I'm like, these people like know who we are. What the heck? And so to see them in the flesh, like so many, and every time we've hosted an event, like we just hosted a movie night in the park a couple weeks ago, and we had like 200 people show up, and I was like, what? Wow. So that always is a really humbling experience for me. Like, we do have a local community, you
absolutely.
know?
Yeah.
Even though I don't actually feel like I know tons of people here in Idaho Falls. So.
Yeah, you matter to them though.
I guess so.
Yeah. When they show up and there's like 500 people and they're, you know, the lines around the block, did they come up to be like, we love you, we love your
Sometimes
family?
they do.
Is that really strange to have
weird.
happen?
Yeah, it never gets not weird. Or if I mean, not weird in a, I always love when people say hi. I feel like I get super awkward. Or I like see someone in Target or something, and I'm like, I like your shirt. And they're like, thanks. You know, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm so weird, I'm sorry. But it's fun. Like, we get a lot of people who like take pictures with them and stuff, and it's fun, and I'm just like, this is the weirdest time to be alive.
Well, because you feel like a normal person yourself, right?
So ridiculously normal. Yes.
Other people feel differently though.
I don't know.
Isn't that interesting?
It's funny.
What's your biggest piece of advice for somebody that's just scared to take that step to start their own business? At East Idaho Credit Union, we're changing the future of business with our Velocity Money Market account. You can receive unbeatable returns on tiered interest rates. We have rates up to 2.02% annual percentage yield. East Idaho Credit Union puts local businesses first because when you do better, we all do better. Federally insured by the NCUA. What's your biggest piece of advice for somebody that's just scared to take that step to start their own business?
Yeah, so I love talking about this. I actually teach a small business course. It's starting tomorrow.
Oh, where do you do that?
I do it like 2 to 3 times a year as it fits into my life. And so I just choose a month, and I'm like, all right, guys, we're doing a small business course, and people will apply It's kind of an application process.
So how could people, if somebody is interested, how could they find that course and apply for it?
Well, my goal is to get it a little more organized and streamlined. But right now it's just kind of a mastermind situation where I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this in the month of October. If you're interested, here's a link to an application. And so when I open the application process, I always post it on my Instagram stories. But my biggest advice and what I always tell people the first day of class, and I have this hanging above my desk in my office, is feel the fear and do it anyway. And I think to just dispel that, like, there's never a right time. You're never going to feel ready. You're never going to feel like, okay, all of our ducks are in a row and we're ready for this. And now I'm going to open my shop. Like, that day never comes.
Yeah.
So you just do it. And you do it fearful. And every day of my life, I'm scared out of my mind. I'm like, we employ 26 people. We're trying to make this work for our family. We're building this huge warehouse in like a recession / high interest rates. And we're like, just feel the fear and do it anyway. And then you just keep at it. The compound effect. You just show up every day and you chip away at the things that you think will propel your business forward.
Gosh, I love that so much. Like, one of the things that's been really interesting doing this podcast is we have a guest come on, and just like you're like, man, they've got it figured out. They're so confident, and I love the acknowledgement that, look, we're all scared.
Oh yeah, totally.
We're all just trying to figure it out as we go along, and it reminds me of that old John Wayne quote: "Courage is about being scared to death but saddling up anyway."
I love that. Yeah. And another one that I'm like a big quote person. Another one that Tyler and I have, it's actually in our bedroom. It says, "Fortune favors the brave."
Oh, I love it.
And that was a thing that I had never heard that before. About a year and a half ago, it started just coming out of the woodwork, and I would like see it. I saw it at the movie theater on the little like advertisement page before a movie starts. And then like I see it on the internet a few days later, and I'm like, this quote is like stalking me. And so we had a sign made out of it. And that's been our mantra this year, is that fortune favors the brave, and not fortune always as in like a financial sense, but just like a lot of a good, abundant life.
I love it. What other advice do you have?
Oh gosh.
That's such a good keeper there. I like that one.
I'm trying to think. I don't know. I think just when you're trying to market to people, anytime you can have a Me Too moment with them, I feel like, disclaimer, I feel like I invented that phrase before
maybe it got
movement.
co-opted a a bit.
I feel like the meaning of it changed, but that was really what just was so much of our success in the beginning, was just moms seeing us being like, me too. Yeah, I felt that way. I felt tired. I felt overwhelmed.
Can you define, when you talk about Me Too, can you define that for people who are listening so that there's no confusion about what you mean?
So I'm all for, the feminist movement of Me Too, but to me, I've always talked about it like when I'm like, something I talked about quite a bit is that my first baby never slept. He was really fussy. And as a mom, I was like, did I get a bad baby? But you don't want to like admit that. And I think like almost a decade of motherhood, I can now say there is no such thing as a bad baby. Don't let anyone make you feel like because your baby doesn't sleep through the night that he or she is a bad baby. It's just, it doesn't exist. And like, also, you will survive this. You will survive. And when I started sharing about something like that, like, all my sister-in-law's babies are sleeping through the night, but not mine. People were like, oh my gosh, my baby doesn't sleep through the night either. And they would get so fired up to talk about things that just were not being talked about online, that you have to be brave enough to go first. And that's a really lonely feeling. But when you open up the conversation, it's almost like you just do a timid little knock on the door, like, anybody else? And people are like, yes, me too. And so it builds connection. It builds trust with your community.
It's interesting, even just looking at your product lineup, I see that concept. I didn't know about that until you started talking about it. But as I think through like your website and your products and your social media, I'm like, that's what it's about. It's about identifying together as a community.
And not everyone has a tribe of mothers around them. And I think some parallels I found just personally is that motherhood can be really lonely and entrepreneurship can be really lonely. And I think I'm trying in this space of teaching small business to open those conversations as well, because you read these books that are like telling you how how to profit first and how to be successful and how to carry yourself with confidence and all these things, and I'm like, but actually it's just like really lonely sometimes. Because you're trying to fit in like your mom group, but you're trying to also in your mind be like, okay, what's our next marketing campaign? And and it can feel really lonely sometimes. And when you say that to another entrepreneur, immediately they're like, yes, I feel that.
I've always felt like people responded really, really well to like vulnerability, to honesty about the situation. Yes. People don't like it when you're like, everything's great and it's always been great and it always will be, because it's not real. And we all know, I think intuitively, that it's not real.
And it makes them feel bad. It gets that comparison thing going on. And
it's so easy to root for somebody who's like, gosh, I had such a hard day, right? Versus somebody who's like, life's perfect as usual, right? And I think that's actually one of the curses of social media a little bit, is we've gotten so accustomed to showing this like highly edited, photoshopped version of life.
The highlight reel.
The highlight reel of life. And nobody recognizes, that was one moment in 24 hours. And frankly, 23 hours and 40 minutes of it were a lot different. Than that
and if you saw
moment.
The mess behind me that I just shoved out of the way to take the picture of my kid,
It was funny. We were, I've got kids, and my youngest is 3, and she's just discovering that it's fun to pretend to be like a rock star, right? And so music's playing, and she gets whatever she can grab, a pen or a pencil or whatever, and she'll sing into it like a microphone. And so it's hilarious. And so my wife was like, I'm going to take a video of this. And she started taking a video, and there was a dresser behind her, and there's some junk on the dresser. And she's like, oh, hold on. And is like moving the junk to the side. And then, okay, go. And man, what a great like example of what social media has taught us to do. But having, to contrast it, you could have the mess and put it out there and be like, hey, it's messy, but we're having a good time anyway. Right?
There is magic in the mess.
There is. Yeah, I think so too. What other kinds of advice would you give? Like if you're teaching this class, don't give away all the secrets, because we want people to go. But
I need to look over my notes. Let me think. Like mindset stuff. I think a big one is mindset. And I think if you are in a negative headspace, it is really hard to push through that. And me just recently having a baby this year, I've been pretty open about this on my Instagram. I've been in a weird relationship with my business this year. Every year prior, it's been like, yes, I love this. This is amazing. Growth. And this year I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like having this coming undone about my identity and all of these things. But I think a big thing is, when you're tired, learn to rest, not to quit. And so it's okay to go into maintenance mode sometimes, just to take care of yourself. And then I think a big thing too is trusting yourself. And I trust myself enough to know that when I go through a burnout phase, it's not the end. It's not any of the dark places that my mind wants to go. It's just like, I'm in a little bit of burnout right now. And I've been through this enough times. I trust myself to know that I'll come back to me. And whatever that looks like, self-care or taking a break or continuing to try to work through it a little bit more, whatever. I just know that it's okay. I'll come back. I know I will. And I can feel myself coming back now as I'm, getting through some of the postpartum roller coaster. So I think that a big thing that I'm really big on is just keeping commitments to yourself and like treating those commitments as prioritizing them as much as you would a commitment to someone else, a meeting that you wouldn't want to miss. I make meetings with myself all the time, and I sit down and plan out things, and I journal, and so same goes for exercising and just having a good morning routine, things like that. I try to really hard to keep commitments to myself, and you'll find that as a theme that emerges in a lot of books and things written by successful entrepreneurs. It's just keeping commitments to yourself and trusting yourself. And it's really hard to do sometimes, because everyone is at the mercy of their own brain going like, oh, I don't think that's, I'm not good enough. And imposter syndrome is completely normal. you gotta find ways to work through that.
Bailey, what else?
Well, everything you're saying is so inspiring. I'm like, let's keep this going. Keep going. I don't know.
Let's one of the things that's been really interesting to me as I've done this podcast is finding the things that are common about our different guests and then the things that are like wildly different as well. It's been actually really interesting. I want to start off with, and this tends to come up, but I want to ask you, I think I know the answer, but are you an introvert, extrovert, mixture? What do you think you are?
I'm curious what you think I am.
I'm curious what you think you are. Bailey, what do you think you are?
What?
Yeah, what are you?
What am I? I'm an extrovert.
Yeah. I actually think you're similar to me. I took like a really big test one time about like what I was. It took like 4 hours. It was crazy. And it's a spectrum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm almost dead middle.
Okay.
Slightly to the extroverted side.
Okay.
I think you're similar.
I actually was talking about this with my husband last night. I think I'm in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think I'm slightly introverted because I feel like the gauge is, and I could be wrong about this, but are you energized by a group of people or are you not? Are you drained?
Right.
And I'm like pretty drained.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
this is awful for you right now.
Yeah. No. I love this. I love small group settings. I love conversations like this. Big group, big like influencer parties, things like that.
It sounds exhausting
to me. Not really for me. I'm like I've gone to like 4 business conferences in the last 6 months, and I come home and I'm just so depleted. And I'm like, I tell my husband all the time, anytime we get a chance to stay home on a Friday night with our boys and watch a movie and eat pizza, this is goals. This is it for me. We have arrived. This is my ideal Friday night. However, so I feel like an introvert in that way, and that's what I really crave and want. Mm-hmm. But I also will acknowledge that I have this wonderful privilege of getting to go hang out with my team all day, and they really fill my cup as far as like I get to go commiserate with mothers, and we get to share our woes and things. And so then my cup is full, and so then I come home and that's where I really want to be. So if I didn't have that, I probably would crave that a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting topic. Yeah. So what I've found is it has almost no bearing on entrepreneurs. There are fantastic entrepreneurs who are introverts. There are fantastic ones that are extroverts. I don't think it has anything to do with anything, to be honest. Although I think somebody who has some extroverted qualities tends to do certain things really well. And people who are introverted tend to do certain things really, really well. But I totally know what you mean. Every time I go to like a business conference, the workshops and stuff, I'm like, yeah, I'm really digging this. I really like this. And then it's like 6 o'clock and they're like, it's cocktail hour.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I'm going to just go back.
And I do like the social settings. I just like, I recharge best. I don't recharge with people. I recharge best by myself.
You know, I used to travel a lot for work. I don't hardly anymore, but when I have done that in the past, I'll go to some place, go to New York City or something, right? And my wife would be like, I'm so jealous you're getting to go and do all this stuff. And I'm like, you got to understand, I'm literally in my hotel room eating pizza that was delivered here. And that's how I'm enjoying New York City right now.
Yes, I feel that for sure.
Okay, what else, Bailey?
What a fun one here. Let's see here.
What was one of the, so when we sent you the list of questions, what was one that you were like, I want to answer that one? That's a cool question.
Let's see. I think like business-wise, morning routine.
Tell us about your morning. You mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone told me a long time ago, and this is something I teach in my business class too, is consider your best day. Like, what do you feel like at the end of your best day? And what, a normal day, not Disneyland.
Yeah.
But like a normal day where you go to bed and you're like, okay, I worked hard. I spent time with my kids. I did this, this, and this. What did that day entail? And then just basically try to repeat that day every day for the rest of your life. And it sounds really boring, but it's something that really stuck with me. And that's kind of what I do. And it's like a day when you feel really balanced and Like you did all the things, did just enough, but not too much. You were productive, but you rested and you played. And so for me, I try to get up on my best day, get up before my kids, exercise, drink a protein shake, spend a few minutes like journaling or reflecting, and then, get my kids up, get them to school, and then get into work. Like not too early, not too late. I like to get up and get something I tell, especially mom business owners, I get ready every day. And I know like a lot of moms, it's just really easy to be like, I don't know anywhere to go today, so I'm just going to stay in my leggings.
Yeah.
And I don't have anyone to impress, so I'm not going to do my hair or makeup. And I'm like, no, not beauty queen ready, but like 20 minutes of whatever makes you feel like your best self. So I wear jeans every day.
Love it.
And just hair and makeup like 15 minutes. And sometimes my kids are screaming, but I'm like, no, really, like if you want a nice mom today, 15 minutes. That's all I need.
Yeah.
So that's something I just feel like set yourself up for success by having a good morning routine. And I think get ready every day. And it doesn't mean a full face of makeup. I never want it to come off like that. It just means take care of yourself in the morning, dress the way that you can be most productive. If you stay in your jammies all day, you're going to treat it like a jammy day. And, so those are things I'm really big on.
Yeah.
That's such good advice. I feel like days when I don't get ready at all, I'm like, I feel miserable by the end of the day. I'm like, this sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to like get up, take a shower and get ready.
Yeah.
Or I just feel, I don't know, like cranky for some reason. Yeah. Just
and
not
if I
right.
miss my workout or I miss one piece of that, I'm like, today's like not as good as that ideal day that I'm trying to
I guess this one's a bust. We might as well call it.
Let's go back to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a day actually recently, you're going to think I'm insane. I showered 5 times because I was like, what is wrong with me? I felt completely clean, but I never got ready or anything. Yeah. And so I just kept trying to like fix my like day, if that makes sense.
I can relate to that.
Sounds dangerously close to like a compulsion, maybe. Yeah.
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 It's weird. But
I just thought too, like, I guess other advice is, as I've been doing this for a little bit longer, you have to decide. I think a lot of people operate from a scarcity mindset, especially right now. Things feel really weird. 2022 is weird. Another weird year in business.
Another weird year. Yeah.
But I think a big eye-opening thing for me in the last year or two is that you have to operate from a place of abundance, but you also have to decide like lifestyle. Like your business can just wash right over you if you let it. And you have to decide like what is enough, because you'll get to a number and you're like, oh, well, that was my big goal and I made it, and now what? And it's like, you can't have, I'm all for goals. I'm all for number goals and all of that. But I really tried to shift in the past year of like lifestyle. What kind of lifestyle do I actually want? Because I actually don't remember how much our business made last September. And I'm sure last September it was a huge deal. And now I'm like, I don't even remember. But I do remember when I took my kids fishing or whatever.
Priorities shift a little bit. Yeah.
A huge, huge thing to keep your priorities in place. And just to, I spend so much time doing, probably not enough time being. And just to acknowledge, I listened to a podcast a while back. Amy Porterfield has an excellent marketing podcast. And she said she's made it a habit of when she's trying to, on a journey this year of trying to find her identity away from her business. Who am I without my business? And I'm like, oh, I feel that, because I'm like, people will say, oh, your Little Mama shirt shop. And I'm like, yeah, I think, but there's probably like, I think once upon a time there were some different things about me. So trying to kind of find my way back to that. And also she just said this little nugget and it really stuck with me, is that whenever she's with her husband and her kids and she's doing something, and I've tried to do this too, like when I'm with my kids and I'm doing something, like we're outside in nature and we're kind of unplugged and whatever, I just try to turn to Tyler and say, I'm so happy. And like just speaking it into like out into the world and acknowledging that there's so much happiness like within and without your business, I think is just a huge thing in keeping your priorities straight and just saying it. There's just something so powerful to just manifesting, like, I'm so happy in this moment. I'm so happy. Not when I reach that number, when we get that many followers or whatever, that those days of happiness when you like base your worth on numbers like that, they never come.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
Priorities.
I think you're right. And when you vocalize it, it does something
Yes.
special in your brain where
Yes.
it's like your brain remembers, oh, that's the thing
Yes.
that I'm trying to chase here. It's
Mhm.
not X% growth
Yeah.
next quarter.
Yeah, that. And then I could go on all day, but like values, we talk a lot about our family values and our business values and knowing what those are before you start your business. And Brene Brown has some really interesting ways to figure out what your values are. She kind of has some tips on finding that. And you can't have a million values. You
Right.
can't have 50. You have like 3,
Right. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so for us, it's like, this is a really amazing opportunity for us to teach our kids about hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And so right now my kids they don't have school today. So they're at the warehouse crushing boxes, Tyler. And I'm like, we're all about just being like, trying to help them recognize like, because we're at Disneyland right now, like remember all the days that we like couldn't do the fun thing and mom and dad had to go to work. And remember when you helped us at the warehouse, that's why we're at Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to model for our kids, hopefully that they will be hard workers too.
Yeah.
So just knowing your values too. Good one.
Have you ever at any point felt like your business and your values were at odds?
Yeah, I think that's when you feel really not in balance of there's times, you know, when I think I like my great 2020 meltdown. Who didn't have one of those? But Tyler was working from home and our kids were homeschooled. We had 3 little boys at the time. And I was just living at the warehouse. And it was the first time we had 1,000 orders in our queue in one,
like in the queue, like not fulfilled.
Not fulfilled. Like the queue hit 1,000. I called our operations manager at the time and I was like bawling. And I was like, Maddie, how are we going to do this? We do not have the manpower to fulfill 1,000 orders. And she said, China, we're going to do it 1 order at a time. And I spent way too much time at the business and in the business during those months. But I look back and I have a lot of grace for myself because everyone was having a hard time. And like that wasn't the worst problem to have, that we were getting 1 billion orders. You know? So,
it's too successful.
Yeah, well, it's too hard. But that year, our word was scale. And just be careful what you wish for because that's the year that we scaled. But I felt a little bit out of alignment that year because I was spending so much time in the business and not enough time on the business and certainly not enough time taking care of myself and my family. And so I felt very like unbalanced. And that was kind of my breaking point. And then when Tyler quit his job, it helped me realign. But I always see it like this. I'm doing this with my hands just up and down. But just, you know, people say balance doesn't exist. And I'm like, I feel like it does. Like unpopular opinion, but I know when I'm balanced and that's when I'm spending a few hours doing this and a few hours doing that. And I'm taking care of things and it's kind of going from thing to thing, but I'm never, when I feel balanced, I don't get to the end of the day and think like, oh, I really neglected this or that today. It's like, no, I kind of took care of the things I needed taken care of today. Yeah.
I think it's fair also that different people work different ways.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Like, and I think that's okay too. I want to, so this is interesting. You talk about that moment of scale.
Yeah.
Probably early in the business, you did everything.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
A to Z.
Yep.
You were designing the shirt, you're doing the marketing, you were packing the box, you're doing the whole thing. At some point, you realized maybe my time is better spent working on the business as opposed to packing a box or whatever, or crushing a box in the warehouse, right?
Yes.
So how did you make the decision to say, I'm going to change where my time is used in the business?
I don't know that it was a single decision. I think it's a string of decisions that I still make daily because I do know how to do everything in the business. And yeah, I did everything for a long time. And then I hired one person. And I think important realization when you're hiring a team is that they're going to help you alleviate so much of your burden, but also they're going to add another little job to your plate.
They create a different set of problems.
Now you have to run payroll and you have to make a schedule and you have to give them their expectations and then you have to have hard conversations with them when they're not meeting your expectations. And so I'm like, oh, like it relieved the order fulfillment, but now I have to like talk to you about our order errors, you know? So, I'm getting a little more in the swing of being a leader and just really, it's really important to me to be a good leader and to really look out for my team. But my default when I'm feeling overwhelmed or when I'm feeling scared or whatever is I want to go back to packing orders.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm here to do orders today, you guys. And they're like, don't you need to like
We
change
actually
the
need
shirt
you
of the
to-
like I thought we were launching a subscription program. So actually just a few weeks ago, my 2 managers pulled me aside and they're like, you don't have to be here. We can do it. We can let us do our jobs tonight. I'm like, okay, goodbye. And
Yeah.
I just didn't go in for like 2 weeks. But I think it's a string of decisions of working your way out. I always say I'm like tiptoeing over to the door, but I never want to go out the door. Like I always want to be in the know. So I still hop on and do customer service when I can and orders when I can. And they're getting fewer and farther in between because now we have a lot of meetings. We have a lot of just admin stuff we have to do and planning. And so it's just a conscious decision all the time of like, where is my time best spent to align with my goals?
Right.
And if your goals are growth and scaling, then you have to work on your business, not in your business. If your goal for the day or the week is just kind of enjoying your life and doing what you like to do, you might find yourself packing orders that day because
Sure.
that's something that I actually genuinely like to do. I just don't have the time for it. And
Sure.
it's way less stressful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So you allude to this moment that almost every entrepreneur has to go through, where you went from doer
yeah,
to leader.
yeah.
And that sometimes is a really rough transition. And you mentioned, I feel comfortable. I like to pack the box,
Yeah.
right? I enjoy that. So what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's transitioning out of the doing the minutia of the business to learning how to actually be a leader and developing as a leader?
Oh gosh, I'm still learning, but I think you have to. I tell myself all the time, like the repeat in my head is be the boss. Be the boss, Jen, you're the boss. I have to remind myself that I'm the boss. But I think, like we said, like hiring for attitude, I think a really important characteristic of being a leader is just believing that like it's hard to let other people come into your baby, which is your business, but realizing that they're sometimes going to have better ideas than you.
Ooh, that's tough.
It's tough because
That's
I'm
hard.
like, I'm the idea woman. I started this thing. And then they have a good idea, and it's just being humble enough to be like, you're right. That is a better idea. Like maybe we should change this process. And so being really open to that. And like, I really looked to Brene Brown on all my leadership, efforts. And she always says, clear is kind. It's a huge one for me. And it's like, it's not nice to not be clear with your employees about expectations or frustrations or whatever. Like that's actually the worst thing you can do.
Yeah,
But
agree.
I don't like confrontation. So it takes enormous like courage for me to give feedback and things. And I love how she always says that I know I'm ready to have a meaningful conversation with my employees when I'm ready to sit beside them and not across from them. And that like we're on the same team here. And so really just getting them on board with the mission, but acknowledging that this business isn't as much their life as it is my life.
Yeah.
And that they have things going on, like so-and-so's mother has cancer and so-and-so's boyfriend just broke up with them. And, they all have things going on. So just trying to be compassionate to what's going on in their lives, but also being very boundaried about, we have lunch together, but we don't really like hang out on the weekends and things like that. And it's hard. I always am like walking that line, and Tyler's like, you got to be the boss. And I'm like, but they're my friends, and they really, really are. But you have to set yourself apart as the professional. You have to dress professionally. You have to act professionally. You can't come and bring your emotional or family drama and pour it on the table, but they can.
Right.
And so you have to find another place to dispel whatever worries are on your heart, and it's not your team, and I think too, just not caring about who gets the credit, like letting your team take the credit for the things. And so every time we get a nice message about customer service or how great our team is, which I feel like our online community is very invested in our team, and we try really hard to like show them all the time, like these are the women like busting their butts to get you your orders. And we'll get a lot of nice messages, and I have a folder on my computer called Love Notes, and that's a place I go when I get a mean one or when I'm feeling down. I go in there and I have just pages and pages of customer notes and things that are like, you have the best team. And I always send it to the team. Like, look, you guys, this matters.
Mm-hmm.
I know you just feel like you're just answering a frustrated email, but like this girl was like having the worst day of her life and you helped her make it better. And so anytime I can just help my team realize that we always say it's more than shirts.
Yeah.
And that's just been something that we say internally, we say it externally to our audience. And so it's a great, tremendous effort to get a lot of people on board for something you believe in, but it can be done. And I think that's when the best work happens. That's when we are in our zone of genius and everyone's like, yes, the mission, you know? So,
well, it would be really easy for somebody to be like, it's just shirts. Why does this work? Right. And, because it's not just shirts,
it's
right?
not,
It's about more than that. And that resonates with people.
Yeah.
People
and for a long
understand
time,
that.
it felt like we're doing this for our audience, our community. Like I'm talking to a screen and I don't know who's watching and I don't know. They're unable to talk back to me. And as I've just done a lot of reflecting over the last year, I'm like, it's actually like my heart has turned more toward our team and just being more like we're employing people. Like it's super cool, you know, and trying to just do right by them because this is feedback that I can actually see in the moment. And so, yeah.
Beautiful.
What's your message to the world?
Oh, like my business message or I always go back to feel the fear and do it anyway. I guess with anything, that is my mantra and I have to practice what I preach. And so that's why we're trying to make some moves with our business and our family and things like feel the fear and do it anyway. That's probably my main one, but we say it's more than shirts a lot too, because it's really about motherhood and community and in a world where a lot of people are just discrediting motherhood and like, you know, kids drag you down and it makes you really busy. You can't have your career you want and stuff. We're just like the most important work is raising those little babies. So yeah, it's kind of our message.
I love it. Love it. It's wonderful. Okay. Are there any questions that we didn't ask that we should have asked?
I don't know. I could talk all day. I don't know. I can't really think of any.
Okay.
I have one more.
Okay.
You sparked something in my mind when you were talking about raising little ones, and that's the most important thing. What advice would you give to somebody who's struggling with like mom guilt?
Yeah. I think mom guilt is a very interesting topic. And no one is immune. I don't know why it exists because there is dad guilt, but there isn't.
I've never felt it.
Yeah. Like Tyler goes to work and I'm like, did you kind of feel guilty? Like you were gone all day and you didn't like sit and hold the baby? And he's like, no, not at all. I think
Zach's face.
I have a 4-month-old right now,
me too.
and I don't know what that means.
Yeah. And I think that is such an issue because I do think there's like our roles as parents are really divine and mothers, you know, nurture and they're just more caring and whatever. And then my husband's the fun guy, you know, and they love when dad comes home. And, but I try to use mom guilt as a compass. And I think that understanding the difference between guilt and shame is really important. And so shame is like, I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad. And as far as mom guilt, it's like I didn't do something. And we can be very in control of our actions. I never try to go to the place where I am a bad mom, but rather use guilt as a tool of like, okay, I'm feeling like my 9-year-old is like really emotional and I'm analyzing how much like one-on-one time have I had with him. Does he need a little bit more mama time right now? I think he does. This email can wait. I'm going to go home and spend time with him. And it like kind of dispels the guilt. And so I've just tried to trick guilt into working for me as guiding me and being realistic because like I can feel guilty over any little thing, but it's just realizing it doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't make it go away. Like feeling guilty about not spending enough time with your kids because you have a business doesn't do anything. But me saying like, okay, I've spent a little too much time on my business today. I do need to go home and spend some time with my kids. The great thing about being a business owner and entrepreneur is I'm in complete control of that. I can leave I mean, I say that I can't. I say, oh, there's 500 orders in the queue, I have to stay. But like, I am my own boss. And so I have to take charge of my life and I can leave. And so I do. But I do have days where I'm like, oh, the boys like spent half their summer at the warehouse. But I try to just be like, I think there's just the good mixture of not every day is a party. And our family works. And we tell that to our boys all the time. We are a working family. And so just using it as a compass, like flip the script on guilt and say, if I'm feeling that little pang of guilt, it probably realistically means I need to do a little bit more of this, or I need to spend a little bit more time with this child or whatever. So
love that. Thank you.
Great advice. Great advice. Gosh, so many good things today. Thank you.
Fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. As a last thing, how can people find you, your shop? Where are you at?
We are Little Mama Shirt Shop everywhere. Mama is spelled M-A-M-A. We're on Instagram. If you want to join our Facebook community, we call it the Mom Squad. And it's like a bunch of, it's 12,000 moms who get on and compare strollers and diaper rashes and emotional preteens and things like that. And I love every time I see a post on there, I always see posts that what mean the most to me in our VIP Facebook group is when they're like, this is the best mom group that I'm in, so I'm going to ask this question here. And I'm like, yes, we are the best mom group, because there's no mom shaming. There's no mom judgment. It's just people can come and ask questions there. And then our website is littlemamashirtshop.com.
Beautiful. Beautiful. China, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the DRGN SLYR Podcast by East Idaho Credit Union. We'll see you next time.
Woo! You better leave that in there. He kicked the table.